Hello, welcome inside the Hero Press Box. We are back on our Sunday evening edition as the Olympics are back to live action on our TV sets. We'll keep an eye on that as we go through today's episode, where we will cover a few different things, probably wrap or just spend a few minutes on each of our topics. There's been a couple things that have gone on in the last week and a half that we haven't done an episode, so we'll touch on a handful of different things. Might even have a plan to have a guest join us on Thursday, our Hera Press Box hockey expert. You're seeming pretty dark, Alyssa. Is that your feelings right now, or is that
I broke a lamp in my room. It fell off the shelf, so we're in the dark for right now.
Anything caused that breakage?
No, nothing caused it. Nothing caused it. It just fell. It was not out of anger or anything like that. No anger.
Okay. And I guess the one thing that could be causing that anger, if I had to guess, would be the U.S. presidential election. But we can get into that a little later on. There's a couple of different things, and we'll just start from if we had done a show a week and a half ago, the things we would have went over. And one of those things that we were started off with there was a question that you gave to me that you poached off of Twitter. And you said you had a player for this question that I'll ask.
Yeah.
I have a player for this question that I'm getting ready to ask. That question is, who do you choose and why? You can go back and give any single athlete a clean bill of health for their career.
You're giving me the first go with it?
Would you like to first go, or do you want me to go?
I would like you to go first.
Okay. So my player on her respective national team all-time scoring list, she currently ranks number 8 all-time. Are you thinking?
I'm thinking.
Okay. And in my eyes, as I was thinking through this question, first of all, she's always battled injuries, and it's always been her legs that have always hindered her ability to stay on the field and just stay healthy in general. And giving her this clean bill of health would not only easily have her in the top 5 scoring all time already for the national team, even though she's only played for 6 years, but she would have a much better chance at still being in my good graces because she would not be the overrated player that I think that she is. Do you have a guess?
I have a guess, but I feel like it's not an accurate guess. My guess is Alex Morgan, and I don't know why. Is it?
Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay. Huh.
You didn't expect that, did you?
No, I did not. Yeah, that came out of left field. I would have never guessed that with you.
Because I mean, if she's 100% healthy for all 6 of those years,
oh, I know,
and for the rest of her career, Wambach's record doesn't have a chance.
Okay, so then that takes me back to a tweet that I had sent. I can't remember off the top of my head if it was from my personal account or from the Hera Press Box account, but I had said if the Alex Morgan from 2012 was still, if that was the Alex Morgan of today, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. So do you think that that's accurate, or do you think that where was her prime? Where is her prime? Is she already past that?
Yeah, I'd say she's past prime.
Okay. Do you think her prime was 2012?
Yeah, I would say that's fair.
I thought you were going to go because you brought up a good one that I didn't even think about, Nancy Kerrigan, which is a whole story in and of itself, and that's more or less just obviously injuries that happen on the field, on the court, are different than someone who's attacking you. But I didn't even think of her. That was a good one, though.
Yeah.
So mine is in my mind, the greatest basketball player to ever play the game in terms of just scoring ability. But there was no league, and in combination with injuries, she didn't continue to play. And that's going to be Cheryl Miller. She graduated college and she was drafted into a couple of different leagues. In one of them, she was actually drafted into a men's league, but she had multiple knee injuries. So she kind of just said that was it, that was going to be her career. At that time, when she graduated college, there was no WNBA. There really was nothing in terms of a team for her to go play in that was going to be sustainable for her to live life.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, in combination with injuries, she just called it a career after that.
Looking up, I don't remember what I searched to find a couple of different articles, but just a couple names to throw out there along this line of question. Mm-hmm. There was one article that talked about the comebacks, and this was usually from injury, and these players, Monica Seles was one of those players, and then Peekaboo Street was also mentioned on that list, and also then ruined by injuries. That was an NBC Sports article, NBC Sports, and then Complex.com had an article about the ruined by injuries, and one of those was Monica Seles, and then the other one was Maureen Connolly.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. All valid. All would have been valid answers to the question. All are valid answers to the question.
Yeah, and I guess I caught myself by surprise when I was trying to think of an athlete. I figured there had to be somebody who stuck out to me, and nothing came to mind for the first couple of minutes, but the first one who did was Morgan.
It was kind of funny that I came across it on Twitter, because Cheryl Miller has always been someone that I always thought that she has been one of the greatest basketball players. You just don't hear about her because it's not like she went and played for the WNBA and, has all these scoring records, rebound records. So she's always been that top player that I always wished could have been in a position where she would have been able to continue her career.
Mm-hmm. Next thing on the list was, and tell me if you understood what I wanted here, a professional league power ranking.
Yeah.
Okay. So for the 4 main professional leagues, basketball, soccer, hockey, and softball here,
mm-hmm.
I asked Alyssa Sue, and I ranked those 4, giving the power rankings. You could base this off of whatever you want, their standing, their popularity, a combination of both, their longevity, whatever it may be. So if you'd like to, once we go through these, to explain your reasoning behind that, feel free to. But we can start off with number 4 on each of our list. For number 4, for me, I had the National Pro Fast Pitch League.
Yep, agreed.
Same for you.
Yep.
Okay. And it's kind of a scary time for NPF. There were also the Akron Racers were dismissed. I don't know if you had seen that yet, but that was I think that day that we would have done a podcast a week and a half ago. They were dismissed, and basically the league picked them up, and they are changing names, but they will continue to be a franchise, and they'll have Asian players, so it'll be basically the second Asian team in the league. A new GM where the league will take over, and that Akron Racers have been in the league for all 15 years. So scary times for NPF. So number 4 on each of our lists there.
Yep.
Number 3 on my list, I have the NWSL.
Okay. For me, these are all very relative to the time that we're talking about, because I think during the summertime, NWSL isn't number 3, it's number 1. Or it's battling the WNBA for number 1. But given the circumstances that we've just been through with the NWSL, I would agree with you.
Mm-hmm. So number 2 on the list, and when I had initially ranked these, number 1 and number 2 were flipped. Well, I flipped them today.
Okay.
After today's events, number 2 for me is the WNBA, which makes the National Women's Hockey League number 1 for me. And like I said, we hopefully will have our Hera Press Box hockey expert on and join us later. So we'll dive into more about the NWHL All-Star game that happened today, but the stories unfolding around the game and the work that was done to create this game and have it be a 100% total success.
Right.
Elevated that league to number 1. And I'll have some questions and comments about that game as well. But number 1 NWHL for me.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. It was pretty impressive for them to be in a venue that there's no team there. And there's no team even really legitimately close to where it's, a day trip that you would drive 4 or 5 hours.
And you're speaking about the 4 NWHL teams.
Correct.
We will mention the Minnesota Whitecaps, who are an independent team that do play in that facility.
Yeah. So to have this weekend for them, and like you said, to have it be a complete success was cool to see. But yeah, I would agree with you on those.
So what does it need to take? You have the NWSL where?
So I probably would have put, again, for me it's all relative to the time. So
that's power rankings.
Right. So I probably would have switched WNBA and NWSL at this time.
So you have NWSL at 2?
2.
Okay. What will it take from that league to be number 1?
Stability.
Which means
to not losing teams, to not have
and so they're not doing anything. Okay, so power rankings, this is something that if we did this, we would do this from month to month. So this is something, right? I mean, short term, how does next month, how does in 2 months or 3 months, how does the NWSL take your number 1 spot? Because I hope they don't lose any teams. I'm gonna assume they don't lose any more teams, and then before the season starts.
Well, you never know. But I mean, for me, it's this. The next month is the start of the season, or
would
the end of
schedule be on that list of things to do?
Yeah, that would be nice to have. So yeah, it starts up at the end of the month, so that's probably why they would take that top spot, because you're coming from a season of the W League that has been one of the most exciting seasons, I think, and it's been piled with talent, and a lot of that talent is coming to the NWSL. So I think that that's going to ramp things up. There's been a lot of trades going on. People are on new teams. Superstars are on new teams. So I think that's ultimately why they would take the top spot, is just because their season is starting.
You want to go through that W League update? Do you have something for us?
I do. So the grand final is what they call their championship game, is Sydney FC versus Melbourne City. If you recall, I said Melbourne City would win it all before the first round, and then a couple rounds ago I said that they weren't even going to make the playoffs, which it really wasn't looking like they were going to make it, but everything fell the way that they needed it to go, because they were not playing in round 13, I do believe it was. So it'll be those two teams facing off. I do believe it's Sunday at 12 a.m. is the time of the game. It will be at Sydney FC's home stadium, which is, I thought, to be different because you would think championship games are neutral sites. I get neutral sites, but we kind of saw that not be successful with the final in Orlando. So in this instance, I'm okay with it. Sydney FC is going to be without one of their star players. Caitlin Ford is out. She has, and I'm going to probably butcher this name, but she announced today that she has a Liz Frank fracture. So basically a very badly broken foot. According to Chris Henderson's tweets, it usually takes about 3 to 4 months to recover. He also said that Sam Kerr had this injury and she was out 8 months. So not only is that a big blow for Caitlin Ford, but it's also a big blow to the Portland Thorns and the NWSL. Caitlin Ford was one of those players. I already kind of mentioned that the W League is stacked with talent. She was one of those players that I was really excited to be able to see take form this summer, and that just, at least in the near future, isn't going to happen. Hopefully it will happen for her at the end of summer, but as of right now, it looks like she'll be out for at least 3 months.
Mm-hmm. You have, and let me know if you want me to let you have time to think about this. One thing that the NWSL could learn from or take away from the W League.
Well, I know that I shared a quote from Aaron Gilliland to you about how what the Newcastle Jets have on the women's side is exactly what what the men have. And so just to have that camaraderie between both teams, especially if you're linked with an MLS team, to say, you know what, we're going to bring the standard up for both sides. Let's make sure that this squad is getting what they all need. Let's give them access to everything that they need. Now, I was kind of seeing some things from the Australian side where it is really dependent on what's going on in Australia at that time, meaning economic-wise, what's going on. But I think that the upside to the Matildas performing so well is that the W League is taking off. So it's going hand in hand with all of that. So really just giving access, everything to both sides.
I'm going to read. Yeah, go ahead.
I think from what I've seen, the NWSL has more of a better fan base. So I think in terms of something that the NWSL could help the W League out, or what I wish the W League could take from them, would be a fan base. There were really low attendance throughout the season. You would see some in the 2,000, 3,000, 4,000s. That was maybe one game a week.
Along those lines that you mentioned from Aaron Gilliland's comment, I have a few quotes that I want to read to you, and we'll see if you can tell me whose quotes these are. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Okay, first quote. We don't need to wait for CBA negotiations to make changes to the resources, talking about facilities and travel accommodations available to the women. We can start this work now, end quote. There's one quote. Any guesses?
Hope Solo?
Nope.
Give me
another
a country.
quote.
Oh, okay.
Another quote.
Is it all the
quote.
same person?
Yes. It's absolutely imperative that we continue to support the NWSL, that it becomes the world's best women's league.
Oh.
We won't have a world championship, a world caliber team going forward if we don't provide them with a first-class league. That is a commitment that we've had now for some years, and I intend to serve and honor that.
It's the new president of U.S. Soccer.
Carlos Cordejo. His quotes there. Those two quotes were from an Equalizer article. Don't know what date those are on there. A couple other things that were not noticeable, but noteworthy from this article was that he had said he had attended a handful of games since NWSL began. He mentioned the need for a commissioner, mentioned the
Hey.
need for more employees within the league, and he talked about more teams, bringing in long-term investors as partners and owners of those teams. And he at the beginning, they included quotes from his Aim Higher vision for U.S. soccer that would increase resources and investment in the women's program, including working towards equal pay, and that he wanted to work towards no longer forcing them to play on artificial turf. That was mentioned, a
Mhm.
direct quote from him. And supporting the women's team is not a charity was his quote, that investing in the women's team is one of the best ways to grow the sport. And that was all much more in depth than one of his first signs of support for the women's game when he wanted to bring the 2027 Women's World Cup to the U.S. But that can be seen
Mhm.
as other things, like
Yeah.
wanting the money as opposed to supporting women's
Right.
games. But
Right.
had you heard those quotes? What were your initial thoughts as I read those off? I know you have an opinion on, well,
Uh,
basically any of the presidents that had been hired in
yeah.
general.
um, impressive quotes, but at the end of the day, they are just quotes. So I hope that he backs those up as well and is not just talking to please, but talking to say, hey, you know what, I'm here to build the sport, to build our side of it, and to continue its greatness. And so I'm glad he said those things. I just hope they're not just because he's saying something that we want to hear from someone.
On a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at on being a fan of his right now?
Well, I saw so Heather O'Reilly is part of the Athletes Council, and part of the Athletes Council is council that votes on who's president. And she came over from London just to be there and be president in Orlando and vote, and then actually flew back. So it was pretty much a 2-day trip for her to come vote and then go back. And then she ended up playing that same day as well. And I saw a quote from her that said, he was the one that we thought had the best ability to lead, and that he was a humble leader and was going to be able to get the job done. So that shifted my thinking today. I read that earlier this afternoon. I was extremely nervous, mostly because I didn't know a whole lot about him, and I had assumed going into the vote that Kathy Carter was pretty much going to take it, and that made me extremely nervous. She is definitely the top person that I did not want to win. So in terms of a number, if we're going like 1 to 10, how I feel, I would say after reading Heather O'Reilly's comments, I would say I'm at a 7.
Okay. And one of the things you mentioned about him being sort of humble, and I think in that same Equalizer article, I can't remember exactly how his career started, but I think he was basically a volunteer for the federation, and he's worked his way up through the rankings, and that's why he's he was basically forced to work with the women's side of things because he was a volunteer, and it was, hey, go do this job that probably nobody else wanted to do.
Yeah.
Was getting paid that you know they couldn't be in the spotlight with the men's side of things. So yeah, I would say there's hope there. Your 7 is very optimistic of you. I'm proud of you for that. If he is day one of the NWSL season, if he's at one game, doesn't matter what game,
Yeah.
does that number jump?
I would say so. I would say it probably jumps to an 8. I'm not going to go out and give him a 10 right away, but I am very impressed with the fact that he's already been at a couple of NWSL games. Because I'm pretty sure Kathy Carter has not stepped foot. She's gone to the same amount of games I've gone to. And I'm not running for president. I wasn't running for president.
Not yet.
No, it's not. It doesn't actually seem all that fun. Especially in this day and age.
So we haven't revisited our Final Four picks. We each drafted 4 college basketball teams. We haven't revisited those in a while. Last we checked, you had UConn, Notre Dame, South Carolina, and Baylor, while I had UCLA, Oregon, Ohio State, and Duke. And I can check, but I'm 99% sure you made the last. Wait, did you make the last change or did I make the last change?
I think you made the last change.
Because I took out.
You took out. Who did you take out?
I
You took out Mississippi State, I think. Right?
Okay, and I put in Duke.
Yeah, I don't.
Because I drafted UCLA and Oregon.
Yeah, and I had UConn and SC, I do believe. Yeah.
Okay, no changes there. Is there anybody you want to change out?
Not at the present moment.
No?
We'll find out tomorrow night. UConn versus Louisville.
And that might factor your decision?
That might factor in my decision. We'll see.
So if Louisville wins, you're going to take UConn out.
Okay, who would take UConn out? I'm not putting UConn on the table for you to snatch up. UConn is
So you're
not
saying that I should take Louisville right now? Because right here on my computer screen, I have Louisville for Ohio State, so I'll do that.
All right.
Well played. Okay, so now I have UCLA, Oregon, Louisville, and Duke are my 4.
I'm still very upset with you about the Oregon pick. Very upset.
It was a great pick by me.
It was.
And you know what? I like change, so I'm gonna go ahead and switch out another team.
Okay.
Throw Michigan in there and replace Duke.
Oh, you're gonna go with Michigan after their performance. Okay.
So I am now at UCLA, Louisville, Oregon, and Michigan, while you have UConn, Notre Dame, South Carolina, and Baylor. And we're sort of coming down to crunch time there in that season, so
yeah, I know.
You better get your final selections in if you need to.
I'm good for right now.
Okay.
I have confidence.
Mentioned the Olympics. U.S. hockey team did win, and you stayed up and watched that, right?
They barely won. They won, but they barely won.
Down 1-0 to Finland, right?
Correct.
Down 1-0 to Finland after one period and added an empty net goal at the very end of the game. In between, it was 2-1 after the U.S. took the lead in the second period. Any comments, or you want to save those until we get into more of a hockey Olympic discussion later in the week?
I just want to bring up Nicole Haas's tweet. She said, "This game did not really put to rest any of my pre-Olympic concerns, but we won. So, yay." Pretty much summed up how I felt. It was not, in my mind, not a great game whatsoever. I had high hopes.
As in they didn't play well, or it was just too heart-wrenching?
All of the above. I just don't think I was very optimistic up until about a week ago, thinking that we could beat Canada, and now I'm not.
That game is on Thursday. Well, Friday, early Friday morning, USA versus Canada. So we'll be able to have a podcast right before that game starts, and we'll go into more of a discussion then. One quote that I will mention, just so we're not completely ignoring the NWHL, because we do want to get more into that at a better time on our podcast. But their tweet, I don't know if you saw this, NWHL's tweet was, quote, "In less than a month, a state of hockey made the National Women's Hockey League All-Star Game. In parentheses, there isn't an NWHL team there, ... yet a sellout."
Uh-huh.
So very cool tweet.
Their Twitter account is they're unapologetic.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's good. I love it. Oh, nail it.
Are you watching the stream?
I am sorry.
But
we knew before.
I don't know why you were
before the last run. We knew that she was winning gold.
I was wondering why you were saying nail it when she was giving somebody a hug.
No. No, I just seen her fall. But tough conditions today for them.
Yeah, wind and some preset coming down.
Yeah, wind and just ridiculously cold.
Mm-hmm.
She was really the only one to put an actual run together.
You should let them know who we're talking about too.
So we're talking about Jamie Anderson. She just won gold medal in slope style. That is her second gold medal. She won it in Sochi when it made its debut in Sochi. Slope style did, which I didn't know until the beginning of this here tonight.
First of our athletes to win a gold medal this year, right, in the Winter Games. U.S. now has 2.
We have 3. 2 gold. Yeah, 3. 2 gold. 2 gold, 1 silver.
Right, 2 gold.
Yep. Swept gold in slope style. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's right. Any other things you wanted to hit on before we called it a night for today?
No, I think we covered everything that I had on my list.
Okay, we got to your W League. Mm-hmm. Other thing that I had was that the NCAA softball did start this weekend. Oklahoma started at number 1. Got to watch a handful of Pac-12 games and the Longhorn Classic. I think they call it Classic. That was on. Wisconsin competed in that. Went 2-2 and got today's game canceled because of below freezing temperatures in Austin, Texas.
Oh, no way.
So, yeah. The benefits of playing your first 30 games on the road, I guess. You still play in cold weather.
Yeah.
But good to have softball back. As I said, Oklahoma number 1. We'll keep track on that season throughout the year. And very cool to see the Pac-12 and Longhorn Network show as many games, and SEC Network will pick up as well as we get into the season. Sure. But we can both keep our eyes on those teams. Other than that, like I said, we hope to have our hockey expert join us to speak on NWHL college season as it comes down to a close. Wisconsin women's hockey team won the conference title this weekend. They did clinch. And then we can also talk about the Olympic hockey teams and matches, and maybe even Olympics in general. So that'll either be Thursday or Sunday. Hopefully Thursday. That's what we'll plan for. And we'll plan on seeing you same place, same time, Thursday evening. For now, thanks for stopping by the Hera Press Box.